Blog Talk Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, it seems we have a problem. I would like to introduce
Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations Team.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Yes, and welcome to another edition of Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio. I am Jeremy, also known as King Sasquatch, and on the phone with me tonight is
King Gray, also known as Tim, and Archangel, also known as Brent.
And Becky's also on the phone, one of our friends.
Yeah, I am. I didn't think it was letting me on. It said I had to press 1. It said I had to press 1.
I don't know. It told me that, too. I was like, what the heck? So what's up, Becky? We finally made your shirt and everything. We have to ship it out, though.
Yeah, I saw the message, so that's cool.
Yeah. Hopefully that won't take 2 more months.
We're going to start off tonight with news like usual. Have you noticed I always say that same line right there every time?
Yeah.
Anyways, authorities in northern Cyprus believe they found an ancient version of the Bible written in Syriac, which is a dialect in the native language of Jesus. The manuscript was found in a police raid on suspected antiquity smugglers. So go figure. But anyways, they said it's about 2,000 years old, and they said that it's one of the oldest written Bibles they've ever found. And they said on the front has a drawing of a tree and 8 lines of Syriac, or whatever language that is. And they said it's basically priceless.
Cool.
I don't know why antique smugglers would have that, but...
When did they find this?
Yesterday or today, one of the two.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty neat.
That's not.
And construction workers discovered the remains of an adult Colombian mammoth this week at the future site of the Thomas Jefferson School of Law. In San Diego Natural History Museum, and paleontologists at the museum estimate the remains are about 500,000 years old, and they're going to be on display there. Cool. Brent keeps up with the San Diego mammoth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, goody, goody, gumdrops. Everything I dreamed is coming true.
And UFOs in Argentina. I've been keeping up on this one with you guys. Witnesses in the area described the object as having glowing white lights. This was last night. And apparently suspended halfway above the center, engaging in a swinging motion and shooting off beams of light up to the ground. Local residents who saw the maneuvers clearly from their balconies and way off into the distance, seen it fired off beams. They saw the object it was nearly 23:30 o'clock, which is, I don't know, what is it, Tim? 2:30?
I have no idea.
No, 23:30 at 3:30 in the morning. And a second object, yellow in color, was seen later on moving slowly over the city towards the scenes of life. The first object was seen again around 1 a.m. on January 31st. This was about a week ago, 3 weeks ago. The second object caused the commotion due to the low altitude, low enough to cause cars to stop moving. Eyewitness accounts suggest that the traffic lights appeared frozen on the red as the UFO flew over, and cell phones employed to photograph or record the object was left with gray screens and drained batteries. That's kind of cool.
That's interesting. I like that.
It drained all the batteries out of their phones, and then all the stoplights were frozen at red. Oh yeah, and it says it was the largest UFO sighting since 2007. And scientists found the biggest snake ever found in the world in South America here.
I heard about this.
Yep. Scientists have recovered fossils of a 60-million-year-old South American snake. The snake's vertebrae suggest it weighed 2,500 pounds and measured 43 feet from nose to tip. When asked to comment, they said, at its great length, the snake would have come up to about your hips, like how tall it was. The size is pretty amazing. But our team also had another question. Since this animal is cold-blooded, how warm would the earth have had to have been to support this animal? Which is a good question. I think we're going to ask Brent, see what he knows.
Oh, yeah, I'm like the snake guy over here.
You are. So where's your answer, Brent?
Oh, you actually want to answer.
Giggity, 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 giggity.
We're just messing with you.
Yeah, I know.
One sec, I'm looking through the soundboard really quick. But anyways, Nick hasn't showed up yet. I don't know what's going on there.
Old faithful.
But the first, yeah. Brent, you know who he's marching with, right?
What was that?
He's marching with the army of you-know-what.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, the first Yeti expedition of 2009 has returned. The recent return of the first expedition searching for the Yeti in 2009 has come back with a bunch of frightening stories. The hunt was supported by Monster Quest, who filmed an episode for their Season 3 coming up on the History Channel. Senior producer Will Yates just told us that the team found themselves indeed on a dangerous expedition out in Nepal. The trekking was much more difficult than they anticipated, and at one point, half of their crew nearly slipped to their deaths. At the end of the expedition, helicopters had to do an extraction off the mountain. Sounds fun.
You'll be in Middle Meadows, Brent.
You want to be extracted from our spots, Brent?
It'd probably be best.
Brent's like, oh, I wish I was hurt really bad so I could be extracted. Anyways, a new sea squirt. I don't know what a sea squirt is. It's a type of plant, I'm guessing, from what I've seen. Do you know what it is, Brent?
No, I have no clue.
Do you know, Becky?
What? I spaced out because one of my cats just came in.
You know what a sea squirt is?
The what?
A sea squirt?
No, not really.
You didn't?
Hell no.
A newly unidentified species of carnivorous sea squirt lurks in the deep sea off of Australia, where it traps and devours meaty prey swimming past. The deep sea resident, along with 2 other marine species, are new to science, were discovered by an international team of scientists doing a month-long voyage aboard the research vessel R.V. Thompson to a marine reserve near Tasmania. The findings were announced today. An expedition below the surface relied on a remotely operated submarine called Jason, which dropped to the depths of 13,000 feet.
Jason? That's kind of a weird...
It looks kind of like a jellyfish kind of thing from what I was looking at earlier. I don't really know a lot about it. I just don't want to get it wrong in case there's any sea squirt fans.
Like Nick called it, all offended.
You want to talk a little bit about the team evidence, Tim? Just the new spot found, like a description.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Was that you, Brent?
Yeah.
Oh. Anyways, yeah, we're looking at some new locations for our next pair tour, and all I gotta say is it's pretty intense. So we're looking like we're gonna have several square miles of new locations that we're gonna have to do. I don't even know. Jeremy knows more about it than I do.
And I'm gonna whoop your ass.
And you hear, Brent?
Yeah, I heard.
But the new locations that we have, on the next pair tour, we're going to do 5 or 6 days of cryptids, and then we're going to do 4 days of ghosts. This last time was mostly ghosts, so this time we're going to keep trading off and on each year between more ghosts and more cryptids. And this year, a new spot that we found an area where there's a river that runs between two little areas of land with a bridge going in between, and we're going to camp there for a couple days. On southern Oregon, we have a place up there, our usual spot. Anything else, Brent? Yeah, and remember Brent, the Motel 6?
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, we have 48 minutes left, and we're going to get started on our topic for tonight. Our topic for tonight, we're going to talk about dinosaurs living amongst humans. I know we've talked about some specific creatures before, but tonight we're going to mainly focus on just some of the hard evidence, like fossil records and things like that. And to get started, I'm going to talk about some Peru tomb descriptions. And some of these early tombs that the Peruvians, I think you'd call them, and the South Americans, like the Incas and stuff, their tombs had actual, like, wooden figures of dinosaurs, and they'd have paintings and stuff like that in their tombs. But now I give you a little bit of background information. I'm going to talk about some specifics. In the early 1930s, they found ceremonial burial stones in areas amongst Peru tombs. Dr. Cabrera, sorry, I'm not good at these names. He's continued his father's research and collected over 11,000 of these stones with dinosaur depictions on them. Approximately one-third of the stones depict pornographic culture of the Peru tombs, graphically portrayed the artifacts of the period, 500 to 1500 AD, and they said that these stones depict that they were playing around with dinosaurs and watching them and stuff. But along with the stones, they found textiles depicting living dinosaurs, and along with those burial stones, and they're also on pottery, rugs, and other things. And they said that these creatures were supposedly alive at the time, and they actually worshipped something that looked like a stegosaurus on here.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I know a little bit more about that too. There's there's also somewhere in Cambodia, it's like the Khmer tribe, I think they're called. They made temples to animals to worship everything living on Earth, and there's actually like a whole site of a temple that's dedicated to like a stegosaurus creature that they actually said they hunted and like worshipped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a French scholar named like Claude Jacques or something like that, like studied it for 30 years, and there's no and he has like definitive proof that they did that. And because like all the locals say it was definitely like a stegosaurus, nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I thought that was, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You ever heard about these, Brent?
No, I have not. First for me.
But there's also been some footprints that have been found, some human and dinosaur footprints been seen together. And there's a rapidly flowing river that runs through Dinosaur Valley State Park, which is in Utah or Montana, or somewhere around there, if I'm not mistaken, right? Tim?
Oh, what'd you say?
Isn't Dinosaur State Park in Montana or Utah, somewhere around there?
I think Montana.
But anyways, they found human footprints, which have also been found on the same exact Jurassic plane, like this Jurassic piece of rock, and overlapping dinosaur footprints. And the most famous one that they found actually it's over in, you got Texas. It's called, Paluxy Riverbed. But this guy named Stan Taylor, he's the guy, that's what he does. Like, we look for paranormal, he looks for dinosaur footprints. And Stan Taylor began his expedition. Wait, how do you say it, Brent? Excavation.
What?
Excavation. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, you are.
I'm all off tonight. But anyways, he began the expedition of Taylor Trail in 1969, continued working on it through 1972. Initially, only 2 tracks could be seen in the Paluxy Riverbed. By following the trail back under the riverbank, 7 more very human-like footprints were exposed. The process involved removing tons of limestone and effectively eliminated the possibility that the tracks were carved, because they were in limestone, like they were saying, so they're not faked or carved. The Taylor Trail, as it normally appears in the river underwater, because you got to imagine it's limestone, it usually has water over it, so they're not carved out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it says a trail of 3-toed dinosaur footprints are also seen crossing at an angle of 30 degrees, which means basically since the limestone hardened and there was a sudden freeze in the footprints, I guess you could call it a freeze, that this could have only happened a couple of days apart, because they couldn't have happened like years apart, because that's not how that kind of stuff works. But a trail of apparently human fossil footprints in association with dinosaur footprints was excavated in the same area in 1999 near Glen Rose, Texas. The new trail on the upper Taylor platform, called the McFall Trail, begins about 25 meters upstream from the Taylor Trail, the one I was just talking about, and goes in the same direction, often a couple of meters to the left. It ends where 2 perfect human footprints, according to Emmett McFall, the guy who found it, were cut out by the Wilson brothers in the 1940s. Originally, lime, mud, and similar wet concrete washed over the dinosaur tracks and filled them. After the dinosaur tracks were filled, a second set of tracks was made, mostly within the infilled dinosaur tracks. And basically, what it's saying is the mud filled the tracks, and then the humans walked over them, and that's how they got the double exposure thing.
Cool.
I know it's hard to understand.
Yeah.
But another famous one is the Ryan's track, discovered in the 1930s. And basically what happened is some assholes didn't like what they had to say when they went to go talk about it. And it says the next day they went down to the river for a news meeting, and they seen 2 guys with iron bars bashing in the footprints of the humans and the dinosaurs.
Wow.
That's fun.
And this was pretty recently. Because that pisses me off hearing about that.
Wait, why did they do that?
Oh, they didn't believe what they had to say. They're evolutionists. And so they got pissed off and busted in the evidence that they found that the dinosaurs and humans lived together. But I'm going to get back to what I was talking about real quick, because I got something good to bring up. Good point. But the Patton Trail, it says the Texas drought made new revelation possible. And new revelations possible. A platform in the Paluxy Riverbed, again, has been exposed by consulting geologist Dr. Don Patton and volunteer workers. Basically, they found 136 consecutive tracks of dinosaurs and humans going 400 feet. And they've been doing it since September 9th, year 2000, up till nowadays. And they said the Metroplex Institute of Origin of Science and Creation Evidence Museum was actually shut down because of them finding these footprints. And they said the leading dinosaur track authorities have acknowledged that they know of no other singular consecutive dinosaur trails in North America that are so long, not to mention the human footprints that go along with it. And they said it's also part of the Taylor Trail, which is the one that I dug up in the 1970s. And basically what it is it's the biggest consecutive dinosaur footprints ever, not to mention they have the humans.
That's pretty cool.
But someone's asking me a question right now on our AIM. They said, could the human tracks have been made later than the dinosaurs? And the answer to that is no. What were you saying?
I was just saying that was my question on the last show because you brought it up and I wanted to know that. So
yeah, I actually wrote that down. I was gonna come up to that later, but somebody just asked it. They said my answer, what I wrote earlier, is we understand that the tracks in the mud don't last long, but to be preserved, they must be solidified rapidly within 7 days. Once the material hardens, the tracks are preserved and footprints will no longer leave an impression in the riverbed. Furthermore, exposed tracks to weather, they decline rapidly. Therefore, we know that the next layer that was deposited immediately and rapidly is a true footprint. So it would have had to have been made within 7 days of each other, since it's hardened into limestone or sandstone, or whatever, however you want to say that. What do you think, Brent?
I think that's probably what happened. Because obviously that shit isn't going to, like, settle in, like, a long period of time, like millions of years, you know. It's going to definitely take a few days for that kind of stuff to settle down.
Who the fuck said that? Who's the slimy little...
But something else I would like to point out that Tim also looked up too, they said that they actually found an iron axe with the handle still in it that was dated back to, I don't know, some dinosaur age. I don't have the exact years, but I know.
It was in the Cretaceous era.
Yeah. But anyways, I'll read a little story, then I'll talk to you guys a little bit about it. Max Hahn was fishing with his family near London, Texas, when he found a rock with wood protruding from it. When the rock was cracked open, this octagonally shaped iron hammer was exposed. The wood handle was partially colified with quartz and calcite inclusions. The cliff is part of the lower Cretaceous Edwards Plateau, which evolutionists tell was formed 140 million years ago when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Of course, the coexistence of humans and dinosaurs would destroy the evolutionary theory. So, was the hammer made by dinosaurs? If that's the truth, right? It has an iron handle and stuff, and it was made 140 million years ago. Does that mean the dinosaurs made it?
Exactly, and not only that, they had to actually crack open the rock to find it. So, you know, it's like it's been there for millions of years.
Yeah.
So it like goes to prove that humans probably did live amongst dinosaurs at one point.
And we have a caller on the line, and 936, you're on the line.
Am I on the line?
Yep.
Oh, that's wonderful. I was just going to call in and point out that Rex Gilroy in Australia has done extensive research on items of interest down there you may find interesting. On a granite plateau in Katoomba, I believe it was, in New South Wales, the Aborigines took him to and showed him a human-like footprint, 5 toes and a standard-looking foot, and it was petrified in the granite rock, the footprint was, and it was 38 inches in length from big toe to heel.
That's pretty big.
Yeah,
that's 2 inches over 3 feet in length.
Wow.
I know we read up on that a little bit earlier, but our other guy read up more on it than I did.
Rex Gilroy has found things of interest like that throughout Australia. And it kind of corresponds with some of the research being done over here pertaining to the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot. And his research, of course, engulfs the Yowie and the different types of Yowie that the Aborigines speak about. But that had to
a good point, though.
That footprint had to have been left a very long time ago to be petrified in granite rock like that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well, it would either have to be some sort of giant human, or it would have to be related to the Yowie of some sort, or the Gigantopithecus.
I think when you start to look at the primates on the planet, and you start talking about the missing link, I think you'd be better off finding the missing link if you just simply looked in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Humans are the only primates on the planet that, don't have hair covering their body. We don't have thicker skin. If you look at the cell structure of humans, our muscle density is not, the cells pertaining to our muscles are not as dense or enduring as that of the primates that live around the planet. So my word to scientists, and of course they blow me off whenever I speak about this, is that the best place to look for the missing link is right in the mirror.
Yeah, I agree.
Good point.
Well, I have no way to prove that. It's again, it's speculation, but the people who could look at that and make some kind of assertion on it, scientifically speaking, don't want to look at something like that.
I know that they don't really like to deal with things that are out of the box for that instance. I know we've tried to tell them, for instance, some of our theories on blood samples and things like that they collected. They don't want to listen to what we've had to say in the past, and I don't know, it gets frustrating.
Oh, yeah. That's why I do my own research, and I don't really publish the results except to people who want to see what I've found. And I've found some really interesting stuff over the last 10 months.
Do you have a website?
No, I have a YouTube page with pictures I've gotten. It's kind of a slideshow. Let me bring up that page, and I'll put the link in chat for you.
Alrighty.
I just went out this past Friday, 2 days ago, and my friend went with me, and we found he took a picture, and he pretended like he was taking a picture of me, and just 30 feet behind me are two juveniles, about 4 to 5 feet in height, with black hair and gray skin, peeking around a tree on both sides of the tree, peeking around the tree at me.
That's pretty interesting. You should post your link.
Yeah, I just posted the video page, and of course I've got the Patterson footage on there, but all the rest of them, there's 3 videos that are from the pictures I've taken over the last 10 months, and then of course there's a Yowie video that everybody says, oh, that's fake, that's a Chewbacca outfit. Well, okay, but the only Chewbacca outfit I've ever seen with moving lips and visible teeth was in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And this one pulls his head back and grits his teeth at the cameraman and then disappears into the night without making a sound.
Wow.
But it's on my video page on the link I just posted. And I have no fear of them. I don't see any reason to fear them, and they keep coming closer and closer to me. And I'm sure pretty soon that one is going to walk out of the woods and make contact with me, but it's their decision, not mine. And that's what most people don't understand about the research I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when you go out there looking for them, you can't hunt them. You can't be an intruder into their home and expect to get any kind of results. You have to take almost a Diane Fossey or Jane Goodall approach. Put yourself out there, let them get used to you, and then it becomes their decision whether they want anything to do with you or not.
Exactly. Yeah, because we do a bunch of research ourselves in the forest. Every so many months we'll go out for like a week or so.
Well, I've tried different things. I've had different results. I've left food out as a gift for them, and in place of the food on the chair where I leave it at, I've received the upper half of a turtle shell only. And another time I received 4 turkey feathers, wild turkey feathers, that were left on the chair.
Do you do your investigating over in the West, or?
I'm sorry?
Do you usually do your investigating over on the West?
On the West? No, right here in Texas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm about an hour north of Houston. In the last 10 months, my friend and I have located 6 different groups of hairy folks out in the woods.
Wow.
When I say 6 different groups, I mean 6 different locations that are, at least 20 miles apart.
Yeah.
So that if my suspicions are correct, along with the research that I've done, they're all over the North American continent. In fact, they're all over the world, just like humans are.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah,
definitely.
They're just called different names by different cultures of people. In Europe and in Russia, they call them the Almas or the Almasti.
Yeah.
In Asia, they call it the Yeti and the Yeren. And then, of course, in Australia, you have the Yowie.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all over the world. And I'm not trying to take over your show. I'm just commenting on my experiences and my own research for the last. I've only been doing this for 10 months.
Oh no, it's perfectly fine. We always enjoy hearing people's investigations and everything because we do it ourselves. So. So we know how it is.
Well, like I say, I've had them really close to me. I've sat by myself in the woods with only the full moon to see by, and them making noise on purpose right behind me, and got within 10 feet of me at night. And it's extremely hard to sit there in a chair by yourself on 900 acres of land that your family owns, when you don't have the advantage of calling 911, you don't have a gun, and your primal instinct for fear, your fear reaction in your brain is screaming at you that there's something so much obviously bigger than you are in the woods because of the sounds they're making. It's hard, but I've managed to do it, and I really don't have that kind of fear reaction anymore because I've gotten used to it. That's why, Friday when there were 2 juveniles behind me, I knew they were there. I could hear them, and I could sense them, and I was really shocked at the photograph that my friend got because he turned the camera, he pointed it at me, then he slowly turned it to where it was lined up with them and snapped a picture, and there was 2 black-haired, gray-skinned juveniles peeking around a tree at me. I'm like, oh, pretty soon they're going to come out and just start playing tag with me. Okay.
So, in your opinion and your experiences with them, did they seem more like animals or do they seem more like people?
They seem like an ancient people to me. I mean, a basic primate would not understand the concept of saying thank you for the food you
with the gifts and stuff. Yeah.
Right. So I found them to be at least as intelligent as we are, if not. I don't want to say more so. I think their intelligence just goes in a different direction because of how they live. How they live and how they operate would obviously suggest that their intelligence goes in a different direction. I don't think they're any dumber than us. I don't know if they're any smarter than us, but they're certainly intelligent, and they're able to do things we can't because of how they live.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point you have there.
Yeah, it is.
It's not. I've been talking on different shows about this subject, and in the normal Bigfoot community, I'm pretty much ridiculed and booed out the door nowadays, but I keep trying to tell people it's not that hard to go out there and have your own experience. What you have to be willing to do is sit down in a chair or on a stump or a fallen tree or something and just sit there and listen to the woods, because it really is their decision, not yours.
Yeah.
So I don't understand, other than it's an affirmation that most humans show an exorbitant amount of stupidity. I don't see why people can't understand that or get that through their head. I mean, some of the most noted researchers in our times did exactly that. The 2 that I'm thinking of being Diane Fossey and Jane Goodall.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Jane Goodall, yeah, she's done a lot.
And we're talking about with wild primates that live in the wild, and she's been able to go out there and sit down and let them get used to her. And when they finally do, they just come up and start taking stuff out of her hands, and they eventually treat her like one of the troop. And basically adopt her into the family at that point, because she's shown that she's trustworthy and not going to do any harm to them, and they understand that. And they basically adopt her. Same thing with Diane Fossey with the 400-pound male gorillas that were charging her in the jungle. When she sat down and started showing them that she meant no harm, the gorillas adopted her into the troop.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing can be done with the hairy folks that live in the woods. Once you understand what they're about, and you show them that you mean no harm, and they get used to you, chances are they'll accept you because they're very accepting of me.
So do you actually get, like the same troop actually comes up to you a lot? Like in the general area?
Yeah, my family has 900 acres of land here in Texas. And I can go out there, and they've gotten to the point where they've started showing themselves to me more often. So in the last 10 months, more specifically in the last 4 months, I've had 5 different sightings from within 50 yards. And I think what they're doing is getting me acclimated to them at this point so that I don't have a typical fear response like humans do. Because there's one that's quite large. He's really, really big. He's got a 21-inch footprint from big toe to heel.
Dang.
and I want to say he's somewhere in the 10 to 12 feet tall range. And I've seen him squatted down looking at me, not thinking I couldn't see him. I'm looking right at him, and I pointed at him, and then I started walking that way, and I had to look down because I have multiple sclerosis, so my balance isn't very good, and it's easy for me to trip and stumble and even fall sometimes. So I tend to look down when I start walking, make sure that my footing is good. And when I looked back up, he was gone, because I was walking towards him, and I hollered into the woods, "You're a big coward, you're twice my size." I want to say he was probably about 6 feet wide in the shoulder.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, he's really big. I want to say he's, like I said, 10 to 12 feet tall, and he's got to be pushing somewhere around 1,000, 1,200 pounds. He's really big, and I'm glad that I haven't ever irritated him. I've got a recording of him growling at me, because I was doing something that he didn't exactly approve of. But it was more a growl of frustration than it was anger or aggression or anything of that nature. It was just a growl of frustration that we got on the recorder that one day when we were out there, because I was doing tree knocking from behind the house, and he couldn't see where I was at. And when my friend became visible on the front side of the house, heading towards the barn where he heard a response, that's when we got the growl on the recorder, like a growl of frustration.
That's pretty neat, though.
Yeah, I mean, it like I say, I mean, I don't know what kind of research or investigations you've done. All I'll say on it is that it's not that hard to go out there and have your own experience. And one of the things you have to do is let them get used to you and you get used to them. Where I went Friday is a place I hadn't been to before, but my friends had been there. And this group obviously knew about me from the other group because they were coming right in. And they got very close to me. At 20 to 30 feet away is pretty close. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But they were making sounds, the tree knocking and other sounds all around us for about 3 hours before we finally packed it in and went home. The funny thing was, on this property that we were on, we opened the gate on the way in, and we closed the gate as we got into the property. And we just hung the chain around the gate and put the lock through it, so we dummy locked it. We didn't actually lock the gate, we just hung the lock in the chain. And as we were driving out at dark, the gate had been opened and the chain laid across the fence where it would normally be chained at.
Wow.
So they'd opened the gate for us as we were leaving. I actually drove through the gate and got out of the car, and my friend got out of his truck, and I said, "Do you believe this?" He's like, "Well, who said they don't have manners?" I just started laughing, you know. I'm like, what are you going to say to something like that? We closed the gate and nobody goes down this road. I mean, we're out in the middle of BFE, literally, on this property, and there's nobody else down there where we were at. You know, it just and they opened the gate for us. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I haven't had that. I've had things happen, but I haven't had that happen before. So it was really interesting. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, do you allow, like, other teams or other researchers onto that property to investigate it with you? You don't?
No, I don't.
Okay. I was going to say that would be a good place for their paratour, but never mind.
Well, and the reason I don't do that is because I don't want to betray whatever trust I've managed to establish over the last 2 months. I don't want to ruin that or lose it.
Well, exactly. I wouldn't either.
You know, I like I say, I published the pictures. I gave you the links. The Sasquatch Reflections videos, those are mine. And they're visible in that if you know how to look at them. The very first video, I put a picture of a billy chimp at the end of the video to contrast how hard it is to see a hair-covered primate with different colored skin using non-professional grade camera. I mean, it's a chimpanzee, a billy chimp, in fact, if you've ever heard of billy chimp. And most people can't see that chimp looking right at the camera. In that slideshow that I have there on YouTube, I've gotten recordings of him. I left the first night I left food out. I put a recorder on the chair and just 5 minutes after I walked out of the woods, I don't know how close they were to me, but 5 minutes after I walked out of the woods, you could hear rocks start clacking. Clack, 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 clack. And there's a Doppler effect to the rocks clacking because they were moving around the chair as they were clacking the rocks. So
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and then 2 hours into the recording, you don't hear anything come up to the chair. But, you know, raccoons and possums will, raccoons particularly, will make noise as they're doing something. And in both cases, a raccoon or a possum would grab the loaf of sandwich bread I left there and drag it off the chair, and it would make a thudding sound or a thump when it hits the ground. And the recorder would have picked that up. But what you hear in the recording clearly is the bag of bread being lifted off the metal chair. The plastic stuck a little bit because it was a metal chair. And it gets lifted off the chair, and a few seconds later you can hear the bag being torn open, and you can hear the smacking of gums, like a 4 or 5 year old child you haven't taught to chew with his mouth closed yet, while they're eating the sandwich bread.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that I've had happen to me. I've had stuff thrown at me. They haven't actually hit me, but they've thrown stuff near me. And it's almost like a game of hide and seek because I'm going this way, and I heard them walking over here. I could hear human-like footsteps out in front of me or to the side of me, and I don't hear them anymore, but I keep going trying to find out where it's coming from. And as I pass them, or pass where they've turned at, a rock or a stick will come flying through the air and land 10, 15 feet to my right or my left to say, hey, we're back over here. You're going the wrong way. And that's when I'll turn to my right or almost behind me and go back the other way, and I can hear the human-like footsteps again as they're moving away from me. But it's almost like a game they play with me out there in the woods.
That does sound pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't expect you guys to believe me. I have no way to validate this other than the photographs I have on YouTube and the recordings that I have that I can email to anybody.
Oh, no, we were actually going to ask you to go on our Bigfoot show next week.
Okay. Well, I'd be happy
next
to be
Sunday
here.
at 9 o'clock Western Pacific time.
Sure, I'd be happy to be your guest. There's so much I could talk about in this. We've had so many things happen, my friend and I have. I went up to visit a friend up towards Tyler, Texas, in what's called the Big Thicket, where it's nothing but huge pine trees that go over into Louisiana and Arkansas. And I located a group up there and had them getting rather close to me at night. And the married couple that I went to see thought that I was full of it, that I was delusional and losing my mind, until the husband saw something very large and gray shoot across the trail out across from the house. And I said, well, how large was it? He says, bigger than my truck. I'm like, yeah, they're here. I told you they're here. I mean, I can walk out in the woods and look at the things they do and see whether they're in the area or not from the way they do stick formations and the way they break and twist trees. I can just tell if they're in the woods in the area or not from some of the stuff they do.
Well, I know when last time we were out and we had a close encounter when we seen them, they started coming from 3 of the 4 sides of us, almost as if they were watching us. They knew we were there. They could see us, but we couldn't see them. It was eerie, but at the same time, it was pretty awesome.
Well, you have to understand that they will flank you. One of the things for them is that they have to feel safe with what they're doing when they get close to you. So they will come in from 3 or 4 directions. That way, if you spot one and you decide to chase it, which some researchers do, a rock or a stick will come flying from your left or your right and hit you. Or another one will jump up and growl at you real quick, distracting you or scaring you so that you can't do whatever it was you intended to do to the one that was running away.
Yeah.
But they will absolutely flank you. some of the best pictures I've seen from other researchers is when they're walking in the woods and they hold the camera down to their side and point it behind them and snap a picture, and you'll see a picture of either a reddish brown with tan skin hairy person or a black-haired and gray-skinned hairy person looking around a tree at them as they pass by.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's one of the funny things about this kind of research is they think most humans are stupid, and I would have to agree with them if I could talk to them. Yes, most humans are stupid, but there's little tricks you can do that are non-invasive and don't cause any harm, like turning a camera behind you and snapping a picture every 20 seconds, and most likely you're going to get something peeking around a tree at you.
Or attach a video camera to like a backpack or something, get it going behind you.
Well,
record them.
I've suggested that to different researchers, putting a game cam actually on their backpack.
Yeah.
That way it would take a picture, because I know they come up behind. But nobody has ever taken that suggestion. One of the funniest pictures I've ever seen is from a woman in Oklahoma.
That's where I'm at.
Okay. She puts out game cameras. And her intention with putting out the game cameras was getting pictures of wildlife for her grandkids to see, raccoons, rabbits, possums, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Because she put the game cameras kind of low to the ground. And they would come up and turn the game cameras, or they would cover them up with brush and deadfall so that they couldn't take any pictures. So she went out there at dusk, and she started chewing them out about messing with her game camera. That she put them out there with the intention of getting pictures of wildlife, and she wanted them to leave her game cameras alone. Just go around. Quit messing with my game cameras. Well, the next morning, the game camera had taken a picture, and it hadn't been turned. So she pulled the memory card out of it, took it in the house, and put it on the computer, and she sent me the picture. And what you see is a raccoon looking directly into the camera, and the front paws of the raccoon are resting on the finger, the index finger, a very large index finger with hair on the back of it, and a very large thumb next to the raccoon's head. He was holding the raccoon in front of the camera for her.
Wow.
And I've got that picture here on my computer, and it's just hilarious because another picture she got is of a rabbit looking straight into the camera, and you're looking at this going, why would a rabbit, and then you notice at the top of the rabbit's head, there's a fist holding the ears. And it's a really large hand, and it has hair all over it, 2 to 3 inch long hair on the back of the fingers and the back of the hand, holding the rabbit by his ears right in front of the camera.
That's awesome. That's so funny. It's like they're either trying to just be nice and help her, or they're just, they obviously have a sense of humor, so that's just funny.
They love her grandchildren. She sent me a picture, and about 40 feet away from the trampoline that her grandkids were playing on, there's a female with her arm wrapped around a persimmon tree, and she's just standing there in plain view, looking around the persimmon tree, watching the kids play on the trampoline. And they love her 2-year-old grandkid. I mean, he sees them all the time, and what she started doing is handing her grandkid, her 2-year-old, the camera, and of course his finger is always over the lens, so you get a beautiful picture of his finger. But a lot of times what you'll see in the background, on the other side of his finger, you'll see a large male that he calls Cookie. It's what this 2-year-old calls him, Cookie. And he's got gray skin and black hair, and he's rather large. I want to say he's about 9 feet tall, and he's just sticks his head out of a brush, and he's looking at the kid, and the kid takes a picture of him. And then the grandkid will hand the camera to Grandma, and she'll take a picture of the same area, and there won't be anything there. So it's really funny to see some of her pictures that her grandkid takes, and then she takes one right behind him of the same area, and there's nothing there. He ducks back in the brush as soon as the grandma has the camera. But the 2-year-old can get pictures of them all day long.
Pretty cool, huh, Brent?
Yeah.
Someone needs to teach him to get his fingers off the lens.
Yeah. He's 2 years old, so it's probably lucky there's any picture coming out at all. But he sees them all the time. they show themselves to him all the time, and they take a very active interest in him. And one night, one evening, the hairy folks in the wood around dusk went bonkers around her house. They started throwing stuff and making howls and different calls, and she had no idea what was going on because they were acting very agitated. And then a few minutes later, she got a phone call from her son. Her daughter-in-law had taken the 2-year-old to a soccer game, and the 2-year-old got away from her, and a car was backing out and hit the 2-year-old. And the hairy folks, somehow they knew this, and that's at the same time they all went nuts in the woods.
Oh, wow.
When this 2-year-old got hit by the car. And she actually saw them clearly. Most of the time she just barely sees them or gets an impression that there's one there, and she takes a picture because they don't show themselves to her as much as they do her grandson. But when the grandson came back from the hospital and came to stay with her a few days later, they were coming out of the woods and getting really close to inspect the 2-year-old. To where she could plainly see them. They were that worried about this. I don't know what it is about this 2-year-old boy up in Oklahoma that they find so intriguing or special, but they really have taken a liking to him up there. And you know, all I'll say is if they accept you into their world, you can go out in the woods and do almost anything you want to because you're one of the most protected people on the face of the earth at that point.
True.
Because there's nothing else is going to come around you. I mean, I would like to see a bully come out in the woods and take on the 12-foot tall male that I'm with. You know, so I don't worry about anything happening to me in the woods. And I've talked to my family and talked to their neighbors. One of their neighbors had an up-close encounter with one last summer from about 20 feet away. And I've asked them little things, like the hogs on the river bottom used to come up on the hill all the time, and they don't anymore. I've asked all of them, have you seen any groups of hogs or any rutting in the fields around here, like the hogs usually do? And they're like, no, haven't seen it in several years. And then I've asked them the question, when was the last time you saw a poisonous snake, like a copperhead or a cottonmouth or a water moccasin? And my family's neighbor saw one copperhead this year. And you're talking about a place that swarms. When I was growing up as a kid, it's just literally swarms with water moccasins and cottonmouths and copperheads. But they're not around the hill. So I imagine because they have youngsters, where I'm at, they're keeping the snake population killed out. And because they're up there living in that area, imagine the hogs stay off in the river bottom and stay away from that area because they're being hunted by the hairy folks. So there's little things you can look for or look at when you're talking to witnesses or people in certain areas. You know, ask them, when was the last time you saw a poisonous snake? I don't know, it's been 3 or 4 years. Well, chances are the hairy folks will eat snakes. They look at them as a dessert or a snack.
And
I
never actually had them eating snakes. That's first for me.
Yeah, they'll eat snakes. And Native Americans used to eat snakes. Cook them over the fire, skin them out and cook them over the fire, and snake tastes a lot like chicken, so it's an edible meat. And they'll eat snakes, and it makes perfect sense for them to keep snakes killed out, especially if they have juveniles, young ones going around, because they'd be more susceptible to a snake bite than an adult would. Then, of course, when you have other wildlife like the hogs that usually come up on the hill and they rut up the fields and be destructive, which most people look at hogs that way, wild hogs anyway. When they suddenly disappear from an area and stay gone for several years, chances are something is in the woods that's bigger than you that's hunting them. And it's not coyotes or wolves, because hogs don't fear coyotes or wolves. they'll fight them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when you have something like, you know, javelina hogs where I'm at will run in groups of 20 to 30 at a time. And when groups like that disappear and don't come up around the hill anymore, or around where certain people live, like my folks or their neighbors, something's going on. So you have to start looking at little subtleties like that may mean something and may mean nothing at all. But when you start grouping these things together, like the absence of snakes and the absence of hogs, stuff that you normally see or grew up seeing, it starts to paint a little bit of a picture for you, and it leads further into your investigation or questioning of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Whoops, I'd hate to cut you off, but we only have 3 or 4 minutes left in our show.
Oh, okay.
But next week's show is going to be on Sasquatch, and we were going to see if we could get you as one of our guests on our show next week.
Certainly. Send me a friend invite over Blog Talk. I'm Smiter in the chat room. And we can exchange information like email address and phone number, whatever, and I'd be happy to be a guest on your show.
Alrighty.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, though.
My name's Thomas.
Your name's Tom?
Yep.
Alrighty. Thanks for calling in this week.
Oh, no problem. And I thank you for taking my call.
Oh, no problem.
Right.
I guess we'll hear from you next week.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you then.
Alrighty.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later. Oops. That was a fun show.
That was.
Well, he definitely had some great stories.
Yeah, Becky's going on next week, too.
Oh, am I?
Yeah,
you are.
Becky's good with Sasquatch, and she said that she's going to go.
Why do you keep saying that? I really don't know that much. I'm learning,
Becky
but I'm still.
She's the expert of our team.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Oh, we're dismissed.
But I'm opening up his page. Sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked. We have 2 minutes left in the show, and we're all going to say our goodbyes really quick and end with another song. And today's show was pretty good. What do you guys think?
I thought it was good.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, the topic switched from dinosaurs and people to Bigfoot, but it was definitely really interesting.
Yeah, it's still about half and half. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We'll talk to you next week at 9 o'clock.
Hey,
Good night, everyone.
we play piano, okay?
Bye.
I didn't know you could play the piano, Cookie Monster.
Oh, sure.
Oh.
C is for cookies, that's good enough for me. C is for cookies, that's good enough for me. Oh, C is for cookies, that's good enough for me. Oh, cookie, 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 done with C. Everybody, C is for cookies, that's good enough for me. C is for cookies, that's good enough for me. C is for cookie, that's good enough for me. Oh, cookie, 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 done with C. Ah, a round cookie with one bite out of it, look like a C. A round donut with one bite out of it,